The Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derbies, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, hosts of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this edition of Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast. We are live here from the North Park building at Academy Square. 289 is on deck. We've got Nathan Case going to join us here in just a minute to talk about his run over there at Kings of Old School. We're going to be talking with Lance Sedlaceck.
Nice job.
Yes, that was a challenge. I talked with Jacob Prusman for about 15 minutes today trying to figure out how to, through Facebook Messenger, to pronounce his name correctly. So Lance is going to be on the air with us at the bottom of the hour to talk a little bit about his points championship with 448 Promotions and their compact point series. And then we're going to round things out with Ed Brewster recapping the 2019 East Coast Championship. So looking forward to getting him on the line to talk a little bit about that. Once again, this is number 289, and it's going to be a busy show. Brian making it. How's football going?
Improving.
JV
JV had a tight game. The first game wasn't really what you'd call a team effort.
No.
So we kind of had some come to God talks, and the boys played a lot better, played a lot harder. Things were good in our second game, so I was happy with that. Varsity won, and then Modified lost a 20-19 squeaker Saturday afternoon. So,
yeah.
And then my Giants suck. But other than that,
it's been rough.
Yeah.
And now they lost. Shepard went out.
Oh, really? I didn't even hear that.
Right? Wasn't he? One of the receivers went out, took a knock to the head, and he was all done for the game. I thought it was Shepard. Maybe it was somebody else.
I don't remember. It must happen before I started watching.
I guess it really doesn't matter at the end of the day.
It does, yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
No.
But yeah.
How was your weekend?
It was busy. We had 2 soccer games on Saturday, and then the day was dedicated to football on Sunday, which was good. It was nice to not have a whole lot to do come Sunday.
Nice.
Today's been crazy, but Mondays usually are.
Yeah, that's why they're called Monday.
We're gonna catch up with Johnathan Furr to talk a little bit about Kings of Old School. We had all sorts of plans on that, but it was a pretty cool move. He said, "Shine the spotlight someplace else," and named Nathan Case. Those guys have been running together for a long time, and we've seen them share some pretty notable success, especially in New York and up and down the East Coast, running together, oftentimes finishing 1-2, 1-3, something like that. And in this weekend at Kings of Old School was no different, with Johnathan taking the win and Nathan coming in second place in this one. They were running with Cody Riley as well out there at the 2019 edition of Kings of Old School. It happened in Hemlock, New York, the Hemlock Fairgrounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw a post on Facebook that threw me off earlier today. The Caledonia Crash and Jam Festival had an active Facebook post that came out of more or less out of nowhere from Marty Seeger, and it threw me off. So all day when I've been trying to remind myself it's Hemlock. It was Hemlock. It was not Caledonia. Yeah. But Nathan's waiting on the line. Nathan, man, how are you?
Good. How are you?
We're doing okay. John said that you do twice the building that he does, and you deserve some recognition for the effort this weekend and helping everybody get to where they were.
Oh, well, I mean, he's a better cheater than I am. Let's get that out of the way first, straight off the bat. I mean, we do most of the stuff we do are kind of more the stalker type build. I'm eventually, probably next year, going to go back out to Bash and try that again. Run with a couple buddies of mine, like Tom Henderson and Evan King, stuff like that.
Sure. Cool.
But yeah, we actually, Brett actually messaged us a while back, and as soon as he said that Kings was set back in stone, we decided to go ahead and start building for that. Been building those cars for probably about 4 months now, between those three and getting Nicastro's car from Florida going back for it.
I noticed none of you guys hauled up any Crown Vics. I thought maybe we'd move away from them caddies and bring some Vics up.
No, not for that show. Tom is the only one that can really compete with some of those HDs and stuff that he runs. We were joking with him before because Brett said the highest place in the 80s car automatically gets $1,000. We already told Tom that they should already write his name on the check for that, and obviously he got that.
He ended up what, 4th?
Yeah, Tom is about one of the best builders that come out of New York, especially from what he used to be. I mean, I remember watching Tom when he was just starting out, kind of getting, the typical treatment at your county fairs teamed up on, but he just came back every year pretty much and got a lot better, and now he's pretty much at the top of the game up that way.
Yeah, he does real well.
He's a regular at the Chautauqua County Fairgrounds over at Dunkirk, and their Lake Erie Rumble shows this weekend.
Cool.
So that's going to be coming up. I'm not sure if he's going to be running out there or not for all intents and purposes for, like Nathan was saying, trying to build for some of these stocker shows. You can get the cars put together. You're supposed to be able to get the cars put together faster, but he had 4 months sunk into these.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Talked to Brett a little bit. He said there was I think he said 110 cars total. Said stands were pretty full, so it sounded like it was a great show. Saw some after picks. Looked like they were tearing stuff up out there.
Donnie Hartzell's Cadillac was destroyed.
Yeah, he'll run it like 6 or 7 more times. So, I mean, it's Donnie, let's be honest. I don't think he throws anything away. But
rest assured, that car will win the county fair next year.
Yeah, probably. No hood on it, tore apart. But. So, Nathan, how was it battling with Johnathan at the end of the show?
Oh, well, there wasn't much of a battle. By the time it got to the end, my car was bellied out in the back, and he got a couple more good shots on the back, and pretty much the back tires were just about off the ground.
Man, I'm kidding.
But I mean, that's typical of me and him. I mean, a lot of people like to shut off when it comes down to buddies, but we've only been able to do that successfully once.
And Cody was right there with you guys as well, right?
Yeah, Cody would have been a lot harder to handle if he wouldn't have had a lower control arm broke on his car, or a lower ball joint, so he was limping around for a little bit. But I definitely felt what it's like to get hit by him in the side about 30.
Would he have Cadillac or GM?
Yep. All the top 4 cars were 73 to 6 caddies.
Nice. What did Nick Nicastro bring up?
He brought a 75 4-door caddy.
Nice. Did Nick's kind of known for driving hard? Did he revert back to his old style of driving, or was he taking it easy out there?
He was taking it easy a decent amount in his heat, and then Matt Gaskin Sr. started picking on him, and Nick just went back to his old school driving style. But I mean, in the feature, he surprisingly stayed calm for quite a while, but when he did decide to turn it up, you should see his car now. It's basically a big banana.
Yep, that's Nick Nicastro. Nick and I, we ran together with each other at Waterloo for years, and we'd always, at some point, we'd always bounce off each other, and both of our stuff usually was junk by the end of the night. So we've had a lot of fun running together. I was hoping I'd get down there and get to bang around with you guys, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out this year. So.
What was it? You had scheduling issues? There was no part-timers, right? There's no part-timers where you work, so.
Yeah, we couldn't get any time off, so. But I'm ahead of the game now. I got a 74 4-door almost done, so we picked that.
I was actually looking for you there. I seen a couple caddies rolling in. I'm like, maybe one of them is Tompkins, but I didn't see you.
No, that was my goal. I'd went and found a car, and I'd heard, just like you guys heard earlier, that Brett was going to have the show, and I ran Jeremy's show early in the season and started working on this one, and then they changed my son's football schedule around, so he had a game that morning, so I wasn't going to miss the game, so I was able to get to the game, but then I wasn't even able to make it to the Derby. But sounds like it was a good one. Sounded like there was a lot of good cars there.
Yeah, there ended up being, I think, between 10 and 12 caddies in there, and Nick, I think Nick's trying to hurt us more than help us. I think there were 6 or 7 cars that were there that he sold people.
Yeah, Nick's done that before. Oh, it's funny.
Man, what did you do to those guys that they're looking for you? They're watching the gate to see when you were pulling in.
Well, he's trying to pick on me for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a great run show. Brett and Mark did an awesome job, and Aaron and Scott Wallace were very good at catching some of the things that we were hoping they wouldn't, but that's how it goes.
Well, you know what they say. I mean, the best inspectors were the biggest cheaters, and I mean, Mark Benjamin, Aaron Bunce. I mean, there's, that kind of goes without saying. So,
Yeah, because I remember the first time we went up to Kings, both me and Johnathan, when we left, really didn't know Mark very well, and we talked about it a couple times since then. Like, at first we were like, we don't want to go back there. Mark was a dick to us in inspection, but once you sit there and think about it more, as long as he's like that to everybody, it makes you want to go back even more.
Yep. Yeah, Mark.
It's not like going to a typical fair show and getting by with everything. Then you just got to wonder what else everybody else got by with.
Yeah, that's one thing is those guys. It's going to be fair across the board.
Well, Mark will tell you, I'm not this or I'm not that, but that dude is exceptionally intelligent when it comes to, at-home engineering and figuring out ways to get cars to do stuff that they're not supposed to be able to do from the factory. And the fact that he's as you described him, a jerk in the inspection line, that's what you want your inspector to be, because he's hard. He's a hard-nosed guy with everybody. Everybody, if you're supposed to have 5 bolts in your fender and you come through with 6 and it's the only thing that's wrong, he's going to make you cut them off.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just as simple as that. We talked a couple weeks ago, Brian, about shows that have the rules to make sure that everybody is equal when they get to the track, and then they have the rule book, the way that it's written to the letter. And Mark is a guy who does it to the letter.
Yes.
Everybody is supposed to be under this rule book, and you tell Mark enforce it, and he does.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, Mark and I have known each other forever, and he is. I mean, when someone hires him to do a job, I mean, he takes it personally. That's his job, and you're not gonna, he's gonna do everything he can to make sure that everything's fair and even across the board, because that's how Mark is. I mean, he's not gonna. He's not going to show anybody favoritism. He's, and the whole crew. I mean, Aaron Bunce. Aaron was one of the first guys that started traveling back in the 90s. I mean, he learned a lot from guys in Ohio and out that way. And I mean, it's a good crew they have. And I was, like I said, I mean, it was funny. Like the first coup show, we drive up on the ramps, and I'm not even thinking. And all of a sudden, I hear spraying paint under my rear end. And I'm like, what is going on? They're like, because I welded the bumper mounts to the frame. They're like, the welds are too long. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, so I'm like, okay. And one side, I don't know how I did it, but one side was like perfect. Like I looked like I could weld. And that one was like 5 inches, and it was beautiful.
That was the side your dad did.
No, that was all me. Beautiful. And then the side over here where it was popcorned and looked like, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it, but it didn't do anything to the car. That side was 6 inches, and I had to cut some of that off. But it was, it was over the 6 inches, and that's how they did it. But like Nathan said, I mean, you can't fault the guy, because when you pull on the track, everything's going to be even, and then it's to the driver's hands. So definitely a good crew.
And it's funny that you guys just mentioned the number of bolts. I actually pulled onto the track for the heat and pulled right in front of Mark, and I could see him after inspection and everything, pulled on the track for the heat, and I could see him counting my hood bolts, and then he seen where 2 of them were in a spot where he didn't like, and so after the heat, he made a point to tell me to change it for the feature.
Yep, and I'll tell you something too is we at the first inspection, the first coups, Mark told me to cut because I had tucked my rear trunk, and he told me that it could only be chained, it couldn't be chained and welded, because I'd welded just little tabs up at the corners, because I'm caddies, the corners will pop up and then it starts going funky. So I welded it, And Mark comes over and he goes, hey, he goes, I made a mistake. I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, you don't have to cut those plates. I'm like, what plates? And he told me, and I was like, I already did, no big deal. He's like, oh, I feel bad. He's like, want me to see if I can get a welder for you? I'm like, no, it's not a big deal. I mean, if he makes a mistake, he'll come over and tell you about it. So, I was thinking about this when I was looking over some of the results from the Derby. The only downside to running a Brett Relier Derby is that Brett can't drive, because whenever I run a big Derby like that, I'd like to have Brett out there, because then, that's one of the best drivers in New York. He's won everything for the last 20 years pretty much. That's the only downside, is that you can't compete with Brett, because you always want to run against the best. So, but other than that, it was they put on a good show, and I have heard nothing negative from the second Coos, or not second, but this the newest version of Coos. So hopefully next year I'll be able to get down there and bump into these guys with some old rusty New York caddies compared to their clean, beautiful Southern caddies.
Oh, I'm sure you got that caddy from down south.
No, actually, this one I got up near Niagara Falls, and it's the frame's in nice shape. The body's got some rust on it, but it's not anywhere it's going to hurt it. So it'll be all right. Chris is checking out something. What's broke, Chris?
No, I was just looking at something quick, making sure everything's running the way that it's supposed to.
Is it?
It is.
Good.
It is. Double checking. Never hurts to triple check and then double check that, triple check.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a good show. So hats off to all the guys who went down there. And
take me through the last little bit of it. You said it wasn't really much to talk about once it got down that late in the running, but Cody, obviously he's a factor. He's been picking up his game quite a bit. He's brought back a lot of information that he can apply at home from his trips out to Bash for Cash. You've been out to Bash for Cash, and while you prefer this type of build, you're talking about going back out there. What was the last little bit like before the checkers finally flew over Johnathan?
Oh, well, it got down to me, Johnathan, Cody, and Brian France.
Okay.
And Brian, I could tell when there was about 8 cars to go that one of us were going to have to end up jumping on him, because he definitely stretched the rules just to the point where Mark couldn't get him on it. But you can't fault him on that. It was just a good idea on his part. The biggest thing I was trying to do was make sure he didn't have the hardest car at the end. So pretty much every time I get a good wheel shot on it, I was going after him about as hard as I could. And then as soon as it got down to 4, out of nowhere is when Cody decided to shift my cage and my driver's door out the driver's side from hitting me in the passenger side so hard.
Wow.
That's impressive.
So what happened after that?
After that, pretty much it was a good little battle between the 4 of us for a little bit. Brian's car was hot and was having a little bit of steering issues. The driver's front was locking up on him. And then Cody was probably the one to beat. And then I don't know if one of us got him in the front tire or the ball joint or lower control arm just decided to go. And then even when that went, he limped it as hard as he could and was trying to put on as many hits as he could. And then it just ended up just down to me and Furr. And by that time, mine was bellying pretty decent and about 2 hits more with the nose of Furr's caddy to the back of mine. I was just sitting there spinning, not being able to go anywhere, which is a shame because the front is pretty much still a pin straight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to running the 74. I've never had the nose be straight after running a caddy, so hopefully I got a couple new ideas I'm going to try and see how that goes. So it's must have made the ride home a little better, taking all that money. First place and second place back home with you. That's a nice little payout to ease that 10 or 12 hour ride back home.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Me and Nick decided to do a dumb thing and decided to try to drive some as soon as the Derby was over. So we got about 2 hours down the road and ended up having to stop in a rest area and get a little sleep so we could keep it in between the ditches.
Nick used to do crazy stuff like that. He's not as young as he used to be. He can't be staying up all night driving anymore.
He can still out-hustle pretty much anybody I know.
Oh, yeah. Nick's always been a worker, that's for sure. Always.
No question there.
He's always up to something.
So you said you're going back to Bash.
He ended up having to be at Charleston, South Carolina for work at 5 o'clock this morning. So we got home probably 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and he was selling a car to somebody, and then just took a couple hours nap and headed straight to Charleston after that.
That's Nick.
That's crazy. So you're talking about going back to Bash for Cash, or are you going solo? Other than meeting up with the guys from New York?
Yeah, pretty much meeting up with the guys from New York. We've talked about the last couple of years, us all getting together and running, and we were going to shoot for that pro stock class, but it filled up in about 2.5 minutes this year.
So what class you going in?
Oh, I think we're going to shoot for the pro stock. They're going to, Tom and Evan and them are going to be down in a couple weeks, and we're going to talk about which class we want to try to squeeze into.
Gotcha.
You guys all ought to build.
Easy to run out of friends out there.
Y'all ought to build for Turn Back the Clock. That's one and done this year. That's even easier.
And yeah, that was very enticing, especially with some good Southern caddies down here, but it's hard to go against the bronze and without a handful of help.
Just got to make sure you got enough guys.
Yeah, which I think you need double of them. That's one thing. Everybody can whine and complain as much as they want about them winning pretty much every year, but even when they've had the numbers against them, their stuff keeps running, and they've got good equipment, and they keep their head on a swivel and always find a way to manage getting it out on top.
Yeah, those guys are definitely wheelmen, definitely great builders. And that's the thing is, people go there and they see these guys win year after year after year, but
and
they don't realize the time and energy they put into those cars. Like, they build those wagons all year long. Like, and they have like set jobs on each wagon, and like every guy is there Saturday and Sunday.
It's a work schedule.
Yeah, it's basically a work schedule.
It's a part-time job.
It's because I was talking to him not this last year, the year before when I went down the last time, and I stood there in the inspection line talking to Josh and Joey, and I can't remember if I talked to Trent or Trace or which one, but they were telling me about the time and stuff that goes into these cars, and I'm just like, no wonder they're so good, and no wonder they're so hard to beat. I mean, they literally put a year into cars to run at that show. I mean, you can't fault guys like that. I mean, it's
and there's no other derbies on their radar aside of that.
No,
maybe they go to something else, but it is focused on Memorial Day.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think I saw where they were. Well, this year, right after the bash, they had the tornado go through, and they had some pretty extensive. I think Josh lost a barn or a garage.
Lost about everything. Both of those vehicles, everything.
So, I'm sure that's so. But I mean, that's the thing is, these guys. I think Trent might have run, or Joey. One of them ran somewhere else during the year or during the summer. But other than that, they were. That's their show right there. So I mean, you can't cheer against guys like that. It's just that's what it's about.
You should tell the grandstands at the Ross County Fairgrounds.
I'll do that. It would be the first time I've been booed.
Yeah, I don't think that would help very much.
It would be the first time I've been booed by 6,000 or 8,000 or 9,000 people. What's the big deal?
But I mean, the biggest thing is I hear so many people booing them, but when you sit down and talk to those guys, they don't have a big ego.
No.
I mean, there's some big name drivers that it's almost hard to talk to because their ego's so big. But those guys, every time we see them, we go up and they talk to us just like we're pretty much building right beside them. They don't act like they're better than you, and they don't do anything to disrespect anybody else either. Nope. They're there to win a show, and you can't fault them for people not being able to get the job done against them.
Absolutely. That's what it's about right there. Those guys are, same thing. I got like I said, I got to meet 2 or 3 of them and talk with them, and good dudes, man, and you can't fault them. I mean, that's their show right there. That's the one they want to win, so that's what they put the time and energy in.
We got Lance Sedlaceck coming up here in just a few minutes to talk about his win in the 448 Promotions Compact Championship. Talking right now with Nathan Case, took second place in a top 2 sweep with Johnathan Furr. His good friend, building buddy, won the Kings of Old School Championship this year. You got anything planned? Any traveling left for this year, or is the Derby season about done for you?
Well, we got a local show, but I don't know if the back of my car is going to be able to be stretched back out enough to go there or not. I was planning to go to White Pine, Tennessee, and then back to Florida in January, February, but we've got a baby due the 1st of December, so we're going to be skipping a few early in the year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's
that'll
cool.
change things a little bit. But congratulations for sure on that. It is going to change things in terms of your Derby schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we tried to pack as many in this year, especially out-of-town shows, when I figured that out.
That's cool.
Well, if you do make it to White Pine, that's always a good show. That's Winter War Zone. And I am blanking on who promotes that. We had him on the show before.
Sean McCollum.
Yes,
Yep.
Thank you. Yep. Puts on a good show, and that thing's been growing.
Yeah.
Been growing by leaps and bounds. I'm sure that's going to be streamed on derbytees.tv like it has been the last several years. If you do make it, good luck there. And then the Florida Southern National is always a good show. And if you do make it down there with the new baby, good luck there as well. Otherwise, safe travels, man. Appreciate you coming on the show. Congratulations on the effort. Is there anybody that you want to make mention of that we didn't get to?
Well, probably our biggest guy is the guy that builds our engines. His name is Hollis Page. He runs just a local engine shop down here, but after this year of all of our shows, I would put any of his stuff against any of the top name guys, builders, and then Tom Henderson builds all of our trainees.
Right.
Cool.
Those can take some abuse.
Yeah. Yeah, they can.
Awesome. Well, a couple of good guys to look up. Hollis Page, engine builder, Tom Henderson putting together the transmissions. Tom Henderson, no slouch. Picked up a win at Bash for Cash there a couple years ago, and we're looking forward to seeing Tom and the boys running. And when you meet up with them, come up next Memorial Day, man. Good luck with the build, and keep in touch. Let us know how it goes.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you coming on, Nathan. Good job. We'll see you later.
Thanks. Bye.
There goes Nathan Case. A couple thoughts from him following his run at the Kings of Old School event. Took second place, and initially the winner, Johnathan Furr. We wanted to talk with him, and he said, "You know what? Let's spread that spotlight around." It's one of the guys
that hard feature that many Cadillacs out there. 12
of them. No joke.
That's pretty hard hitting.
No slouch, that's for sure.
Remember when Cadillacs used to be throwaway cars?
I was thinking that when he said there was 12.
Remember that used to.
Can you imagine if you had a tenth of the ones that were thrown away back, and how many Cadillacs would be out there now? But what do we know? We know nothing. We know nothing. Smash It Demolition Derby still has a couple local shows to knock out before we get to Topeka, Kansas. Smash It Derbies online, smashitderby.com. September the 21st, the Ashland County Fair in Ashland, Ohio. It's a 5 o'clock start time there. Street stocks, 80s newer pro stocks, the mini cars, youth cars, and the Power Wheels all on schedule there for Ashland. And then October the 12th is the annual fall cleanup show that's at the Fayette County Fairgrounds in Washington Courthouse, Ohio, 6 o'clock start. Full-size cleanup, compact cleanup, any of your pro stocks, the street stocks on the card, mowers, Power Wheels also on there as well. That is the same day, if you're looking for something locally, that the Paradise Speedway Derby is scheduled October the 12th. The week before that is San Filippo Smash, San Filippo 4, scheduled for October 5th with Spinning Wheels Productions. And then, of course, the 7th through the 10th, the Kansas Expo Center, Topeka, Kansas, Blizzard Bash 2019, the schedule of events for that one at Blizzard Bash. Again, Kansas Expo Center in Topeka, Kansas. November the 6th is the heat draws, pit parties from 7 to 10 o'clock. November the 7th is the first round of heats for the national bracket and the qualifying bracket. Remember that the first 2 national teams out are eliminated from the national draw, and the last 2 qualifying teams running get into the national draw for the following year. November the 8th is the second round of qualifying for the national and qualifying brackets. November the 9th is the Twin Bill Compact and Limited Weld Team Heats. Start the day, all the Team B features, trucks, and Limited Weld one and dones on the card for that evening. And then November the 10th is all the Team A mains. Championship Sunday is going to be November the 10th. Online for additional details, blizzardbash.com. So we're going to be catching up with Lance here for just a minute. And getting some thoughts from him on a very, very busy season. Ended up running a bunch of shows with Jacob Prusman and won the Compact Championship. There was one guy that we wanted to make mention of before we get too deep into this conversation. Mike Slater from Ohio spent 4 weeks in spent 4 weeks in Iowa this summer running that, and then came back for the last one, made all of the points shows in Iowa.
Wow.
So good effort, good attaboys due there. So catching up with Lance here in just a minute. You know, the one thing is we haven't talked to Lance before. Hopefully Jacob told him there's a time difference.
Yeah.
There's a
probably 5:30 there.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, Lance had a heck of a run. He got the points championship over Tej Redenius. Lance got 460 points to his effort. Lance, how are you? We're doing all right, Lance. Man, appreciate you coming on the show and hanging out with us for a little while. We were just running through the point standings for the final standings for the compacts. Austin Silman was third, Tyler Wagner fourth, and Joe Redenius, Adam Klein coming in with a tie for fifth overall. Lance coming on, we initially talked with Jacob after we had the points conversation with Eddie Chick last week, and Jake said, hey, is there any chance that we could get some of our guys on? And I said, absolutely. Then Jacob couldn't make it, and he said, Lance is your guy. Lance is who you want to talk to. So Lance, man, welcome to the show. Congratulations on the points championship. We talked with last week, we were talking with Eddie Chick and talking about the points and how important it is to have them close together with similar rules but far enough apart on the calendar where you're able to build the cars and get the cars fixed. How did the points championship with 448 Promotions work for you?
Oh, it went pretty well. I was planning on running all of the shows anyways, but definitely ended up building a few more cars than I probably would have, I guess. I think he had a pretty good go of it for kind of his second year doing this promotion stuff, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think I kind of talked to him a little bit earlier. He acted like maybe going to try a couple more shows next year and do some more with the points. So I think that'll be cool, I guess. Well,
it showed that he was online on Facebook Messenger a little bit ago, and then it went dark. So I think he must have gone into his meeting that he had scheduled tonight that has something to do with the 2020 Derby season. So that was kind of cool. The points thing is such a touchy subject, and we got into it fairly deep last week. Is you don't want to burn out your crew, and you said you built more cars than you maybe had planned to. Would you prefer harder rules so you don't have to build a car as frequently, or do you like the faster builds and just turn the cars over?
I kind of like the his rules he's using now, I guess. Pretty basic stuff, and there's another promoter he's kind of working with similar rules. So actually this weekend I'm going to take my car to the other promoter's fall show and finish it off. So
right.
Guess I like that they're fairly simple, I guess. And there's not a whole lot of people big into it right in this area.
Right.
As far as, if they're going to buy, everybody spend money on cradles and all that, I guess kind of the basic, I think, kind of gets the cars around here, I guess. I don't know. I know there were some guys that kind of acted like they'd wish they had gotten into the points thing, after the fact. But, I think it's a good way to get people, to all your shows, I guess.
What's your car of choice?
I run Luminous.
Nice. They're still hard to beat in the stocker shows. They are still a hard car to beat.
Yeah, they're I've probably been running for 10 years now, and I think I could count the cars that weren't Luminas or W bodies on one hand that I've ran. So I've wrecked a lot of them, I guess. And they're pretty plentiful, anyways, it seems. So
that's one of the first times I've heard that.
I guess I work at a junkyard, so that helps things out.
Yep, that makes it easier.
I think a lot of guys would hate to see the amount of them I crush, I guess. But I guess they're pretty plentiful for me, I guess. And that Tyler Wagner you mentioned, that I think he got fourth or whatever in points. He's a good friend of mine, and we kind of built out of the same garage or whatever. So kind of got him into it last year and got him running Luminous. So just works good to just kind of run the same thing, I guess.
Plentiful is one thing, but I got to go back to aisle 6 is a little bit different for most Derby guys. You know what I mean? To just go to, it's like I got to go get another Luminal, you know?
Yeah, that comes in handy.
Yeah, I got a pile of them anyway, so that definitely helps as far as, and his points thing, he worked pretty good. I guess I like to run pretty hard, so he rewarded Mad Dog pretty good with points, so if you weren't out there to win and you were out there to hit, you got pretty good points anyways too. So
that's a cool idea.
I think I got Mad Dog points a couple times anyway, so that definitely helped.
It's sort of in line with the passing points idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't understand passing points for the life of me. No, and for sprint cars, if you're familiar.
Or late models. Late models do the same thing.
Well, but I like late models.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But, like, in a heat, the more cars you pass, the better heat you had, so it makes you start further up. It's weird, but, if somebody's making better hits, theoretically, they could be having a better Derby, at least, from an entertainment standpoint. So I do kind of like that element of it. On the full-size side of things, Cody Gains, a couple of names that we're going to recognize a little bit through here. Cody Gains, 500 points on the full-size final point standings. Jacob Everts was second. Michael Gaines was third. Michael Slater was fourth. That was the gentleman that was coming out of Ohio. Ended up running into the top 5. Brandon Teddet, Tyler Twos, Cody Lockhart, John Cecil, and Brandon Ubben in a tie for 8th place. And again, the top 3 in each of the class got a little bit of money, and they also got some vendor stuff. I mean, Cody Gains got $300 plus a bomber transmission near it, tail housing. Prusman Trucking, pair of 14-inch Nissans, Killer Derby parts radiator guard, Killer Derby parts hump plates, and 448 designs, set of door wraps.
Can't beat that.
That's a pretty nice prize package for first place.
Yeah, Jacob did a great job getting the vendors involved in it. That's for sure. He definitely made it worth their while on that aspect.
I like to see the vendor support stuff like that. I mean, because even the biggest guys, even the biggest guys still have to make a profit. And I mean, if they're donating to 5, 6, 7, 8, I mean, it's good that they do that. I mean, that's give back a little bit. I like that. Depending on
how the vendor is set up, varies greatly on how much overhead they have and how much margin they've got on the product. So you're asking somebody that's making virtually nothing on their product to donate something. It's a very hard pill to swallow versus somebody who's got access to the steel and has the benders and the welders and all that other stuff versus trying to farm stuff out other places. So they sometimes it's hard, and either way, you see a lot of these names, and you're getting more names, and you're getting different names involved with some of these points programs and stuff like that, which is good. And regionally, you need that because you can't keep asking the top national guy to cover all of these events from the national tier down to the regional tier down even to the local side of things.
Smith Metalworks, they've really stepped up out of Pennsylvania. They've done a beautiful job. Every week you see them, on their page, somebody that has won, something. And it's been, one of their things is part of the package, or they've gotten points winning with their stuff. So it's really neat. They've really stepped up big time.
And that's one of the differences. And I'm not saying that this is the case that Casey Smith and Smith Metalworks is in, but if you are a commercial welder or a for-profit welder that owns your own shop, you can make your derby parts out of your scrap stuff. You can order your stuff knowing that you're going to have scrap enough over to. So now your margins are significantly higher than what they would be otherwise. Talking with Lance Sedlaceck, I'm trying to say that as many times as I can to ingrain it in my brain so I stop messing it up.
It sounds like a hockey name. You should know that.
I know, doesn't it?
It does.
Doesn't it? It sounds like,
should we play for your Blackhawks?
They need help. Did you see, on the topic of Blackhawks, did you see Tony Brellinger doing the burnout?
I know the put the thing on for you.
Well, I was trying to set you up there. Yeah, you did a nice job.
Yes. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I didn't even know where it was, but that was just cool. It was some sort of car show. And I don't know if anybody's seen it. I tagged Chris in it on Facebook. But you could see classic cars and hot rods lined up along this drag strip. And here comes Tony Brellinger.
Nailed it. Another tough one.
And They pull up, and there's him and a passenger. And I don't know if it was his girlfriend or if it was just a buddy, but like they squirt some of the water with bleach in it on the right front, and it does just a little bit of a burnout. And then Tony reaches out the side, and I'm thinking he dumped the whole thing on it. And he got that left front tire going, and it was just smoke everywhere.
It was awesome.
It was. If anybody is friends with Tony, or you can look it up on Facebook, it is well worth checking it out. It was awesome. We put out a burnout to compare with any of the
sweetest compact Derby burnout or burnout period that you could see.
It was awesome to see.
But for Lance's effort, he took home $150 cash, a Catskill Fab 15-gallon fuel cell, RDS single battery box, JD Auto Body Graphics $100 gift card, 448 Designs door wrap, and then a second set of door wraps on the back side of that. And when you're going through cars like Lance is, you're going to need a lot of door wraps, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. This year I was talking to Jacob, and he goes, "Well, how many sets do you want?" I said, "Oh, we might as well do 5 or 6, I guess, and pretty well burn those up anyway. So I'll definitely put those to good use next year."
Now, did you run other shows besides just the compact, or just besides the points races, or did you just kind of stick to that for the summer?
He had I ran spring show at Denison, Iowa. Didn't do very good down there, and then Jacob he threw in an SUV class, which I had never run. Threw that in one of his shows, so I built a Durango for that and tried that out, and that was fun.
Yeah.
And then he actually. Webster City, Iowa is where Jacob's from, and they had their big anniversary derby this year. That just the past champions, they had just a class for that, which there only ended up being 4 of us. It was an 80s class. Well, I ended up taking Illumina to it and tried to play with the big boys for a little while, but that was fun. Jacob and his dad ended up nosing it out at the end for the win, so that was a good show.
Was that the same show that you dumped Jacob's back end?
Yeah, yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I was kind of giving Jacob shit. He knows I like to go for the Mad Dog all the time, and he happened to not put a Mad Dog in the class I was running against him in, so I don't know what that was
But
about.
That's funny.
Well, you showed him right good, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't know if you thought that meant I wouldn't hit or what, but no, that was a good show. Good show.
With his Lumina, he buckled the back end of it. Just dumped the whole back end. Dumped it right in the dirt.
That's awesome.
It was cool.
He mentioned the SUV class, and which is comparable to our junk run.
Yep.
And I really think, and I truly believe, that we were one of the first in the area to have that junk run. And then it's really blossomed. And it's a cool
big footprint area for the first in the area. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really, I mean, I ran it a few times, and I had a ball in it. Unfortunately, you know, it was real big at Waterloo, and it's gone downhill that class, unfortunately. But the first couple of years, there was like 30 vehicles on the track.
Oh, I follow what you're saying now. The junk run has become a specialty, where we've got people that are excelling at building Durangos and Explorers, and they're not running other classes, or they're not putting the same amount of build focus into those other classes. And I think that's one of the things that we've run into a problem with here locally, where before we had 30 vehicles on track and whatever happened, but now we're down to like anywhere from 13 to 18, but they're all really well built, and it's not that introductory class like it was meant to be. We've got junk run experts, as it were.
Yeah.
But that class hasn't seen the fall off the way that full-size trucks has. The first couple times that full-size trucks were there was 15 of them, and now there's 3, 4. And I mean, remember when the Safari vans were ruling the roost and that stuff? Those ended up getting the same reputation as Imperials, and they weren't all. I don't think they're allowed to run anymore, are they?
Yeah, you can still run.
You can,
but
it can't be the 4-wheel drive.
Everybody started running the Explorers because the nose of them were so tough. Remember, one of the Tinker Toys hit Corey Lukes and literally drove through the back corner,
peeled the whole back end off.
It was awesome. Yeah, that was crazy. But it was funny. The first year I ran that, Kyle asked me if I wanted to run it, and I said, yeah, I'd love to. It sounds fun. He's like, all right, I got a Jeep out here you can run. So I go out and I start looking at it, and I'm like, man, this thing's in good shape. I'm like, he's like, oh, they traded it in, da-da-da-da-da. And it was right before the fair, so of course I didn't have my car done. So I had Paul Reynolds. I said, Paul, would you strip it for me? Just basic, you ain't got to do anything. He's like, yeah, no problem. So he texts me, he's like, you better come look at this. And I'm like, look at what? And he's like, come look at this. And I'm like, okay. Well, when he started peeling up the carpet, the floor came with it.
Oh, no.
And he's like, I'm going to leave the carpet under your floor, so at least, or under your seat, so then at least we think there's steel there. I said, and literally there was like no floorboard on the passenger side, no floorboard behind me, but like in the back where cargo would go, that was good. So Kyle had this big pipe, and we welded that behind the doors, and I went and asked Nick the cashier not to hit me in the door if I was sideways, because Nick's known to hit people like that. He's like, all right, well, it'll be good.
You'd be sitting on the track with a cage around you, holding on to nothing, just sitting there in the dirt.
And I ran that down. I don't know. I was somewhere top 5, I think, and then broke distributor cap. And it was a fun heat, hard hitting. But
you're in the discussion for Mad Dog for that one.
Yeah,
and then it turned out that I don't think they gave him Mad Dog for that heat.
Yeah. And then the next year I took that Jimmy 2 mini Blazer thing, and they gave it to a guy that got tipped over instead of, me that shortened that thing by 4 foot on each end.
Mm-hmm. Remember the Ranger that you couldn't get out of when it was on fire?
I got out of it quickly when I was on fire. You've never seen a fat guy get that skinny to go out that side window. Yeah, it wasn't fun.
Are you going to do more of that junk run stuff at home, the SUV stuff?
Uh-oh.
Did we lose you, Lance?
No, I'm still here. They're actually this show that I'm running this weekend. They've got an SUV class there, so I'm probably gonna try to put a wheel back on it and get it up there, and maybe see if we can't finish it off anyways. But start for a new one next year, I guess. I don't know, where Jacob's gonna have them next year, I guess. But it'd be nice to have them more than one show.
So would you rather have more events on the schedule, or would you rather keep it at like 4? Or at least have 4 that pay points, so you've got the opportunity to put a drop in there, so if you need some time off, you have it.
I wouldn't hurt my feelings to have a couple more, I guess.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you, like this year, you had 4 chances to get points or something like that, so you didn't necessarily have to run every show. If you, like for the full-size guys, the welds and the more stock ones shared points, so a couple of those guys didn't even make it to a couple of shows and placed real well on the points just because they ran multiple cars, I guess. I guess I used to do a lot of figure 8 racing around here, and I kind of got burned out on that, and that was a deal where, you're running 10 or 15 times a year, I guess, but
sure.
Definitely not as much work as building the derby cars,
Would you be allowed to bring your Lumina and go against some of the full-size stuff?
That they kind of were hinting about that. I think Jacob would probably let me, and I was kind of something that we might try next year. If, depending on what his, say his 80s rules look like. I would say the one thing that was definitely a downfall on it was there was no bumper bracket allowed, so it completely accordion right in front of the case frame mounts, I guess. But that would be the main downfall I saw, on running it in that class.
Right.
As far as, running the hard bumper on it and then not have any sort of bumper bracket, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, you want to find a way to fix that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can just make the nose of those a little tougher. Jerry Ott, we've seen Jerry Ott win full-size features numerous times with his Luminous.
We heard Brian France's name come up. He had a couple great runs at the Yates County Fair in full-size stuff. But, Jerry Ott, he went down there with a knife at a gunfight and still won.
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, he was always a fun one to watch when it came to those Luminas.
Yep, he was very good. Very good.
And on those running the Lumina in the full size, I think there is an advantage there. You got ground speed and you can maneuver a lot better, and that's where you can pick your shots, I guess.
Yeah.
As far as some of them big cars on a wet track aren't getting around so well,
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you got all the weight right over those front tires, and you're not fighting the light rear end or anything with the rear wheel drives.
I'll never forget. It was a few years ago. I saw at Waterloo Wednesday night a Lumina hit a Crown Vic headlight to headlight and knocked the driver out in the Crown Vic. Put him to sleep. I'll think of his name after the show, but yep, right in front of us. Boom, he was out. It was bad. Didn't hurt that Vic at all either, or that Lumina at all either. He backed away and
that's awesome.
Tore that Vic up.
Up in Canada, the Vics aren't. Up in Canada, the Luminas aren't allowed to run. They have to run with the mid-size or with the full-size stuff based on their wheelbase rules. So you're stuck running like the smaller stuff like Cavalier, Sunbirds, and stuff like that. And the Luminas have to go with full-size stuff. So those guys are used to running those against bigger cars. So when those guys come down from Canada with their Luminas, they're already ready to go.
How funny is it that when the Lumina came out, it was Chevy's brand to take over NASCAR?
Yeah, I know, right? Yep.
And now we're wrecking them.
Jeff Gordon won a championship in the same car that you dumped Jacob's rear end in.
Yep.
No doubt.
Well, anybody that you want to make mention of?
I just want to give Jacob a shout out for doing a heck of a job at what he's doing here, and I think he's really got something he's building. One guy, you kind of talked about some of the vendors that had sponsored some stuff. I have a friend that his name's Shane Thorsen. He kind of has a page called Thorsen's Motorsports on Facebook.
Yep.
And he builds bumpers and wheels. I know he had donated a set of wheels or two. But I'm running. I had him. Jacob, that was my other beef with Jacob this year. I like to run pointies, and he said we couldn't run pointies on compacts this year. So my next best thought was a 74 Monte Carlo bumper. So I had Shane build me one of those, and that's a heck of a bumper. And I'm running his wheels too. So he definitely does good work.
Shane, go ahead.
But I would recommend anybody to like Jacob's page on Facebook for sure, because he's definitely kind of up and coming in the world, I think. So definitely think he puts a heck of a show on. So
Thorsen Motorsports gave Austin Silman a pair of full-centered tracker wheels.
Cool.
Yeah, there you go.
That was Austin Silman.
But he's a heck of a welder and makes some really nice wheels. So
awesome. Well, Lance, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, especially on the short notice. Hopefully you enjoyed your stay here. We look forward to hearing from you. Let us know how you make out this weekend, and we wish you the best of luck with the rest of the shows that you've got planned for this fall, and hopefully we run into each other sometime down the line.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on, man. Take care.
Yep.
Have a good one.
There goes Lance Sedlaceck, the not hockey demolition derby driver.
Mm-hmm. I think Ian went down to the Northeast Championships. Thought I saw a picture of him getting ready down there. I could be wrong.
What now?
The RC Derby they were about.
Oh, the East Coast Championship. Yeah. Down in the Northeast. I got thrown off.
Sorry.
There's
I misspoke.
There's a New Hampshire State Fair Championship that Eileen Mann has coming up. Hey, it's Chris. Let me put you in. Eileen Mann has that coming up, and they do the Northeast Championship show, and I got a little brain scramble there. I panicked. Actually,
Sorry.
I didn't know. I thought maybe I missed something. Ed Brewster's joining us now. I know he's been pretty busy the last couple of days with the East Coast Championships. How'd everything go?
Went real well, Chris. We probably didn't have as many entries as we've had in the past couple of years, but the action was probably the best year yet. Outlaw class was one of the hardest hitting I've ever seen anywhere.
Yeah.
On the circuit whatsoever.
It's always good to hear.
Did it break anything?
No chassis breakage was amazing in the outlaw class. It's just extremely heavy hitting. The match actually went pretty quick. Dumped out the first 4 cars in probably less than a minute. And then things got down to the final 3 or 4, and again, very quickly going there. And final 2 went down and battled it out for at least, I would say, probably 15, 20 minutes. And one of the best battles I've ever seen in Derby that I've been on.
Cool. So JMW Motorsports Park is off of Turn 3 at Southside Speedway. And there was a special on each of the last 2 weekends. It was the same special. They aired it twice on Denny Hamlin. And Denny Hamlin grew up winning races at Southside Speedway.
Oh, no kidding.
So they did a bunch of the interviews and stuff at the track, and there was highlights at the track, and I told Ed about it, and he told me some stories in his time at Southside Speedway where it was a little different take on some of the Denny Hamlin stories. It was really cool to see Southside. I mean, they're walking down the track into Turn 3, and it was a really artistic shot, and you could see the exit gate to get off of Turn 3 out into the back. And it's like, you see that blur back there? I was telling Melissa, you see that blur? That's Ed's track. I mean, you couldn't really tell, but it was
sweet. It
was really neat that GMW almost got on NBC Sports.
Gosh, you told me something I didn't know there, Chris. Wow.
At least in a blur.
Yeah. Hey, it's something, ain't it?
So what else? What else did you have planned on there for the ECC? I mean, it's a gigantic weekend. It lasts a couple days.
Yeah, Chris, it's a non-stop weekend during here. I tell you what, I'm just as wore out from this as being at Bash for Cash, and we know how hectic that is.
Right.
We had a lot of metal body racing as well. Something new we did this year was toll booth racing, and with that we got up on the High Bank Oval, and we drove like 6 pieces of rebar in the ground on the front stretch spaced at 16 inches. And you were to maintain speed and come through those, and that was a lot of carnage there. We actually saw Daniel Roberts totally shredded his car doing that. At the end of it, there was nothing left but a little front end hanging on the front post and a wee bit of the back end. And some of the other things we were doing was a figure 8 trailer race, which again, people are really crazy about that. That was a lot of fun, a lot of carnage there.
Right.
And, sumo derby up on the tables. We had an 8-foot square table and probably about 7 to 8 cars on that table going at it. And first match went really quick. This is the first year we had done that. So we decided to break it down and run 4 matches, and then the top 4 would go to the final up there on the tables. And as we went on, each match lasted a little longer. They were getting the hang of it. I think that's something we'll bring back next year. It was just quick fun.
That's crazy. That sounds like I was glad to hear that the event happened at all, given how rough that hurricane could have been. You guys are pretty susceptible to wash off and rainfall problems, washing away the surface of the track. You've had battles with that each of the last several years. But you've also done a lot of improvements to the facility to retain the surface as the rains come through. Were you affected at all by Hurricane Dorian?
No, not at all, Chris. We had put up a lot of stuff for the ECC, and we thought it was going to kind of just brush us here where we are. And so anyway, I go out there and take down all this stuff, and fortunately it kind of come up and just barely even kissed us at all. We probably got 1/10 of an inch of rain. We did get some 40 to 50 mile an hour breezes here or there. So anyway, the weather turned out good that way. It just caused me a little extra work. And then we was like praying for rain for the surfaces out there. We can water hose, but my gosh, we can't keep up with Mother Nature's heat.
Right.
And anyway, fortunately, it was like Thursday night, a decent rain came through for us, and got in there Friday morning real early and got the tracks packed, and we had great surface all weekend. The Derby pit is probably one of the best surfaces we've ever had at JMW.
Yeah. Who won the national class?
National class, let's see here. Went home to Ohio again this year.
Yeah.
James Roberts and Daniel Roberts both out of Ohio.
Right.
And then Bobby Edwards, he snagged the 3rd place in that.
Good deal.
And Pennsylvania man Christopher Warnick, he took the Mad Dog in the national class.
Nice.
So they got spread around. We did have one man from Virginia in the show there in the national. He didn't do too good, but he was hammering it out. He represented Virginia well.
Very nice. What's next?
Man, been having to work on that since ECC was starting to wind down. Next is the national, NRCTPA World Finals we're going to in Montpelier, Ohio. This will be the 3rd trip there, and this is one that is just growing rapidly. Our first time there, I think we had 6 to 9 entries. We got there the second time, and a lot of things had doubled and tripled among the classes there. And we're looking at it now. We're probably gonna fill all the classes. We had capped them at a certain amount of entries due to the time limit we have to run out there, and all the classes are half full or more at this point. And this will be happening in like 3 weeks in Montpelier, Ohio.
I don't know if you caught that. That's the NRCTPA. That's the National RC Tractor Pulling Association. And these are almost, some of them are homemade, like the Outlaws are homemade, just like what you see on the tractor pulling circuit. But some of them are the old toy tractors with the back ends removed and electric motors put in them.
Really?
It's just crazy. And then you guys run it inside the hotel, right?
Yeah, all inside, the quality in there. They've got 2 huge atriums, and normally we're in one end of an atrium with the truck and tractor pulling, and then they also bring some great monster truck racing there as well, and they're usually in the other atrium.
Cool. And do you have a derby there as well?
Yeah, we are running National Truck, Team Outlaw, and Milk Truck this round at the World Finals.
And that's the one where you took the carpet and turned it over, right? And you ran on the backing?
Right. Our first round there, we learned that, the carpet was great, lots of traction, but it started picking up fibers there, and next thing you know, a car was winding about 9 foot of carpet fiber up in the motor. So a few issues there. You got to really commend the guys that ran there that time. Not a one of them complained about it at all. They, were like, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And so the next round there, we started rolling the carpet out, and I was like, we got to try something different here. So we flipped it over and hit the backside and probably come up with a surface that the grip's unbelievably amazing. The hitting is so hard there. We think it's really going to trim down the time on the matches due to the amount of grip on there.
So they're turning the carpet over and they're running on that woven plastic and glue black backing. We ran into the fiber thing at Seneca County and nobody complained, which was great. We're on the same surface. It is what it is, but that fiber wound up and really affected things quite a bit and messed up the ability of the wheel to turn as a whole on some of them because that plastic got in there and just melted all the pieces together when the fibers got hot. And it was like cotton candy, only a bad way. And
just evaporate.
And it was rough. But Ed talked to the folks at the Seneca County Fair and said, we tried this thing in Ohio and it worked really well running on the back of the carpet. So when they bring the pulling track in for the tractor pulls, it's brought in and it was like 4 sections, right? It's already it's a modular track that already has the clay on it, and it just slides out the back.
It comes in sections, and then they start laying the sections out lengthwise. I tell you, I'm glad you brought that up because that is something I'd really like to video this year. It's so thought out, and you would look at it and think, oh my gosh, it's going to take 2 days to set it up. But these guys wheel it in and have it together in just a matter of a few hours. And normally they have anywhere from 2 to 4 pulling lanes that they bring in.
That's crazy.
Right. It's a different world. Yet again, another element. Ed has so many wild stories about RC and what he's come across since he's been traversing the country with RC demolition derbies. It's really cool. And then on the backside of that, once you wrap up with that, it's full steam ahead for Motorama, right?
Yeah, it is that, Chris. I know we was matter of fact, with all the guys from New York down to ECC, I had mentioned to you too about maybe putting one together sometime in November up in New York. So on the show here is probably a good place to mention it because we're looking for somewhere indoors to run. And if anybody's listening out there that's got somewhere we could put a derby together and run inside, please give me some contact on Facebook or something and let me know. Would really like to get this done and maybe make an annual event coming up there in November as well.
Well, we'll keep an ear out. We'll find something.
Sounds good, man. You know a lot of people up there, so yeah, find us somewhere that's a little warm with a roof on it, man.
I'll see what I can do.
unless y'all get an unusual November and it happens to be hot.
Remember Super Dirt Week when it was 70 in November? After it snowed in October.
It's not a lot, but it has happened.
It's happened before.
I've deer hunted in T-shirts.
Online, JMW Motorsports. You can find everything you need on there. Look Ed up on Facebook. He'll be able to hook you up with all of your RC derby car needs, whether it's mud bosses, whether it's pulling tractors, pulling trucks, or, of course, the bread and butter of JMW now, the RC demolition derby stuff. Ed, man, I appreciate you coming on. We're over time. I'll catch up with you here before too long, okay?
All right. Thank you, Chris. Take care, Brian.
Have a good one, Bob.
Man. Have a good evening.
We'll see you later, Ed. Thanks.
All right.
So a couple guys from New York making the trek down to be part of that one. Looking for some stuff to do here in November on the RC Derby side of things. So what do you think? We cover our bases pretty well?
We did. Hopefully, if they run one in November, hopefully Tommy Bell will be back and running by then.
I hope so. It'd be good to see him. I sent him some messages today. You know, I'll tell you once we get off the air. We got to get out of here. That's going to do it for episode number 289. We appreciate all of you tuning in and hanging out with us here for a little while on the Crash Course. This one's in the books. We'll see you next time here on the Crash Course. The Crash Course Live is presented by Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, host of May Mania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com. Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel, and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York.